Speaking of IUP, it's part of the state system of higher education, of course, and the faculty union at IUP and the other state system schools is known colloquially as APSCUF, the Association. Ken, see if I get this right just off the top of my head. The Association of Professional State County, and now I'm not going to get it.
Well, you're close. Okay, so
University faculty.
It's the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties.
I see. I should have rehearsed that. I really should have done that. Ken Mash is the president of the union, and he joins us here this morning on Indiana in the Morning. Our conversation is brought to you by Marcus & Mack, voted the best personal injury law firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. We hear a lot about faculty and their feelings regarding various issues within the state system. Certainly the consolidation of universities, the creation of the two new entities within the state system, that's one of the things. Funding at the state system universities. And a lot of folks might say, well, what does the union care about all of that stuff? But it really is a vital thing for the union to be not only involved, but a part of all of those discussions, isn't it?
Well, it definitely is, and good morning. The union itself, we're the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties. Our association existed before collective bargaining existed. So we have a long history of not just dealing with what are typically considered to be union issues, but being involved in issues related to public higher education that predates collective bargaining. So that's always been a part of what we're concerned about is higher education in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So, of course, we're interested in funding. We've been very involved in all kinds of issues, including student debt issues, and working with trying to get the legislature to take some action to alleviate some student debt that really is impacting this generation of students who have just graduated and are graduating now. We advocate for more funding for the system because your listeners may or may not know, but Pennsylvania ranks, 47, 48, 49, 50 in all of the rankings with regard to state funding for public higher education.
Yeah, it's really an interesting thing to watch as the issues develop, and so much of it is tied to finance and the way the universities find themselves right now in financial difficulty all across the system. That really spurred the consolidation, the redesign effort at the state system, and obviously the union has a great interest in that. But let's talk about that a little bit. The consolidation now, you're well into the second semester since the two new entities became a part of the state system. Has it gone the way that you would have expected it from the union perspective?
Well, APSCUF was opposed to the consolidation from the very start. So, we have to start there. And my predecessor, Jimmy Warner, who was a professor at IUP, she, was rather public about our opposition to the consolidation. But, it had happened, and so there are many issues, many of which we thought would be issues, and then some additional issues that are going on. So, what I know is our faculty and our coaches are doing everything they possibly can to make sure that the students still get a great experience at those universities, while they do have to deal with all the things that merging three universities into one involves, including curriculum issues and delivery issues and financial issues.
So there are a lot of things that still, I'm sure, have to be sorted out. And as you said, maybe some things happening that nobody anticipated, either from the state system side or from the union's side. And those things, when they arise, I'm sure that all of a sudden the ripple goes down through the ranks, and people have to deal with them. And that sort of adaptability is something that you need to do as faculty members, and sometimes on the fly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you spoke to our faculty at any one of the universities or campuses now that are part of a bigger university, they'll tell you that they're they've never had busier days and harder days because they have to deal with all those issues on top of their regular responsibilities. So, there's even, there are technical issues that happen, too, when you're combining schools together, and those technical issues can impact, registration and financial aid and things like that. So everybody has to be putting in not just full effort, but, 110%, going beyond even what they had done before.
Schools such as IUP, which weren't part of the consolidation, still are very much interested and affected by it. And I'm sure that there are a lot of issues from IUP's perspective that, from our university standpoint, we look at. I'm sure you're at East Stroud, right?
Yes.
At East Stroud, I'm sure you have your own set of concerns that the union deals with there. When we think about that and the way school funding goes, and as we heard from some of our lawmakers, the way schools such as IUP and some of the bigger schools end up having to support some of the lesser performing schools, that concern in the way that the pressures are put on those larger universities, it's a big concern, I know, from the university standpoint. Is it from the union standpoint?
Well, of course it is, and obviously there's money being put into the consolidation that could have otherwise been spent in other areas for the other universities. Of course, some of that money was given specifically for the consolidation, so that's not necessarily an issue. But IUP has financial issues of its own that are not even involved with the consolidation. So, we're dealing with a situation where our universities have been underfunded, seriously underfunded. And again, the data shows this when you compare it to other states for a long time now. And so, the financial crisis is a yearly event for us. When you add on to that a lot of what we refer to as legacy debt, which comes from, really a building wave of dormitories and other buildings on the campuses that occurred like in the early 2010s, around that period of time. Mm-hmm. What happened is there were a lot of bonds taking out, and there was debt that the universities took on. Ultimately, they may have done it through their foundations or some other side corporations, but ultimately that debt falls on the universities. So that's one of our major concerns right now, and that really is an issue for IUP. It's an issue for the consolidated universities. In fact, for Penn West, it's even more of an issue because you took three universities, combined them into one, and now they have one big, massive debt. And, one of the issues that we have about that is that these were decisions that were made by presidents, a long time ago now, but yet it's the current students at these universities who are servicing that debt for the university. So money that should be going for them to have, more faculty, more programs, more courses, more services for them. Instead, they have to spend that money to help the university pay off the debt that they had incurred. And we're state-owned universities. We don't have endowments. We don't have gigantic foundations like other universities do in the Commonwealth. So we do rely on the state, and we think that this is an issue that really has to be dealt with and has to be dealt with quickly, because we think the students deserve to get, everything for their dollar when it comes to their education, and it shouldn't be that they have to pay off for the possible mistakes of the past.
Contract negotiations are going on right now. And by the way, we're talking to Dr. Ken Mash. He is the president of the faculty union at the Safe System Schools. Those talks are going on now, and we hear maybe just a little more quietly now than we used to about some of the big issues at the table, including pressure on the faculty to perform for larger class sizes, and the time concerns that must be spent by university faculty members, and salaries are a part of it. Retrenchment is also a part of what has gone on in the last 5-10 years at the state system schools. All of that are things to be negotiated. The tone of the talks seemed to be much improved over where they were 5 or 10 years ago, and there are probably specific reasons for that. But would you say I was correct if I said that when it went off of the front page of the media that the talks all of a sudden improved and we started getting things done better?
Well, I think it's a chicken and the egg thing, right? Because, as if negotiations are proceeding smoothly, then you're not going to hear about it quite as much in the public because if things are going smoothly, the main goal is to make progress at the table, not to, tell the world about what's going on because that could only create issues at the table. So I think as long as things are relatively quiet, it's a sign that things are proceeding along. And I think to the credit of the system and my members, right, the goal that we have at this point is to deal with the many issues that are out there. And you pointed out just a few, but there's a lot of issues that we need to talk about. And so far what I would say is that we've been able to have meaningful conversations about the things that we've talked about at the table. Of course, I don't know how it's going to end up. That's an open question, of course. But for right now, at least, we are talking. We're having good conversations. We're making little progress, but there is a long way to go before we wind up with a contract.
Just a moment left with Ken Mash, the president of the faculty union at the state system schools. APSCUF communicating with the state system on the various issues that go into the operation of a university. Do you feel like you have the input that you need in order to be effective?
Well, I think that depends on what the particular issue is. Of course, one of the things I learned early on is it's not within the power of the union to make managers good managers, right? So, ultimately the decisions that get made are made by managers. Having said that, I think at least at the negotiations table and in other opportunities, we have been able to have that input. I think the Board of Governors has been very receptive and been inclusive as far as sharing information with us. It depends on what the particular issue is.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll continue to follow the negotiations and wait patiently for a new contract to be worked out. There's another negotiation session scheduled, in fact, next week. Dr. Ken Mash, thanks so much for spending some time with us this morning here on Indiana in the Morning.
Thank you very much, and have a great day.
You too. It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160.